he was at least 500 metres upwind of us, and then he just flew. That speedboat just flew. There was no one on board. Flew down. It was a big boat, twin inboard boat, so very heavy, big, and it just flew into the boat right next to us.
Good morning. Last night was quite fun on Anchorage. We had dragging boats, so let's talk to Scott and find out what actually happened.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. I mean, the Corfu harbour here, the main harbour in Corfu, doesn't have the best reputation for holding. So when a squall came through, there were a number of boats that moved. Where our boat wasn't moving, which was fantastic, great anchoring that we have there, anchor system. Unfortunately, there was a speedboat that had just started dragging a fair way away. I'd say he was at least 500 metres upwind of us, and then he just flew. That speedboat just flew. There was no one on board. Flew down. It was a big boat, twin inboard boat, so very heavy, big, and it just flew into the boat right next to us, and was
in front of us. And
so we went straight away to grab some fenders, some big fenders, figuring that it was going to maintain that pace, bounce off them, and then bounce right into us. So that wasn't the ideal situation. We could see pretty quickly, though, that it was getting stuck at the boat in front of us and wasn't moving, and that I did have some time to launch the dinghy, and I think I could do more for that boat in front of us and for us with the dinghy in the water than I could just waiting passively with a with a bunch of fenders and a mooring stick.
Yeah, and look, we were really I guess we were in the middle of dinner. It was just going dark. We actually have some friends on board that aren't sailors. It's the first time that they've stayed on board overnight, so we did have an extra couple of pairs of hands, which was really helpful. Scotty, we have a really powerful tender, which is good in this situation. You were able to jump on that tender and go off, and I was able to stay on the boat with a couple of extra pairs of hands at least to be prepared to fend off if we needed to.
Yeah, exactly. If it was just the two of us, I don't know whether I would have been confident enough to just jump off the boat on the tender rather than stay on ours, but we did have some time, even though the wind was about 20 knots. As I say, not a terrific amount of wind, but poor holding and kind of big fetch coming up as well. Stormy clouds, starting to rain, all that sort of spooky type of thing. And
sun setting. We
definitely did have the time to launch the dinghy. The dinghy's aluminium, so she's a bit of a tank, and I don't know if I would want to do that in a softer dinghy, just because if I'm trying to get boats to be out of the way and put myself between a potential projectile boat and our boat, I'd rather do it with a big steely boat than not. So yeah, she proved her worth last night for sure.
And there was definitely, there was lots of boats around. We did have a couple of boats move, and obviously they started to drag anchor, so they moved fairly quickly. But we did have, I think, 3 boats that moved from behind us during that time and re-anchor, and so the whole Anchorage was quite nervous. And there was lots of people that were on their boats looking and, watching what you were doing. The French man behind us, he jumped on board your dinghy and helped as well.
Yeah, there's no way I could have done much other than act as a battering ram or subtly move things without that guy. So the French guy from Corsica, very generously, he was friends with the boat that was having problems with the the motorboat in there, the boat just north of us, or just in front of us. So he jumped on board, and we were able to come up with a plan. Initially we were just pushing it off, but then we were able to come up with a plan of just pulling up that anchor and towing that boat to a place that it could do less damage if it did drag, but also make sure that it was safe.
So one of the things that we did realise was, and our friends on board did ask, did we, you guys see the beautiful anchorage out there, just out for our morning walk. But one of the things that our friends did ask was, well, legally, where do we stand when we take control of a vessel, essentially, and move it? We need to find out, I guess, and I'm sure each jurisdiction is different, but we were protecting our home at that stage and other people around us. We also had, I guess, there wasn't anyone else that come and helped you, was there? There were, besides the French man.
No, the skipper's first responsibility is to their boat and to the safety of their crew and passengers. So the fact that nobody else jumped in their tender and to come out to help us, that's perfectly acceptable and expected. So just like, I was in a situation where I had the dinghy that could do the job, as it turned out. That wasn't quite so sure because it was a heavy powerboat, and I had a bloke that was able to do all the muscle work and pull up he pulled up that anchor by hand and
amazing.
Held on to that boat. We had a rope on it, but also he held on to the anchor as we towed it backwards into a safer space.
Yeah, so you did manage to reset it, and we've got some footage of that that we'll share. But you did manage to reset it, and we've woken up this morning to go for our walk early this morning, and the boat is gone. So it was right at the end of the bay. So someone's obviously found their boat overnight and moved it back to, or taken it back to their location. We don't know where that is, but that has been found and reclaimed, which is fantastic. But I guess in these situations, Scott, we had seen that there was a squall coming, and we'd taken some action already on our boat. So we'd taken down the shade, and we'd put the 2 stand-up paddleboards up. I mean, we had just served our guests and their friends, friends, dinner. So we were just sitting down to dinner. It was, just on dusk and 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And so we just sat down for dinner, and the wind picked up, and we just stopped dinner. Said, you guys keep going, but we just need to do a couple of things. So taking down those shades and making our boat more secure was really important to us at that stage. And then when we saw the dragging boat, obviously, you jumped into action. So
without that dragging boat, it was a much calmer situation. I think we were under control.
Yeah.
As I say, there was as you said, a number of boats in the anchorage weren't under control, and they pulled their anchors up and moved. We were holding firm, so I'll swim on the anchor this morning, and I'll just double check, see what it actually did. But looks like the old Ultra anchors held up well for us. Yeah.
So we do. What sort of anchor do we have?
Ultra.
And what kilos?
20 something.
25?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Kilos,
yeah, 25 kilo Ultra anchor. And that was put on by the previous owner of Seawind after a big weather event as well. So we've had pretty good holding capacity with that anchor. As Scott said, this is a notorious bay for
there is
dragging.
There looks like there's sand patches. There is no sand. It's actually dead grass, and so it's quite, if you put your hand in it, it's sort of like a cross between mud and dead organic matter. so it's not the best holding. It's not the same as clay or sand. The whole bay is just covered in this grass, which is good for the environment, not great for the boats trying to hold in the anchor.
Any lessons learnt? Anything else that you'd do differently next time?
I think a couple of things. I think I would have some sort of tow rope. In that situation, I probably would have been better off with it, because if it was just me, I would have needed some sort of line or rope that was a bit thicker than the one I had. I was expecting to somehow secure that boat, just so that it wasn't going to be... There's no point just fending it off past us and then leaving it to be a problem for the boats that are behind us. I understood that. I thought, we could tie it to a mooring ball or something along those lines. Its anchor was holding. That was the problem with it, but it was going to hold right in front of our boat, so we had to do something. I think it's just be aware to take action and be confident with the tender. Maybe have an extra tow rope when we need it, and we're just very fortunate it was just before dark and not on dark, which would have made life a lot more miserable.
Yeah.
So, and that we had the French guy there to help out. I think that's fantastic.
And it was lovely. The man at the, I think the next boat over after the Frenchman, after the Frenchman, he called you over and said thank you after you were finished. So that was nice as well, the acknowledgement that you've done the right thing and they were safe and secure, and they could also get a good night's sleep. So it calmed right down after that.
It was a half an hour of 20 knots, and then it was back down to 4 or 5 knots. So it was like, which is what it was all night, dropped even further, and what it's expected to be today. We might have a repeat, so we'll keep the camera handy. Storm's expecting this evening as well, so we'll see how that goes. But
so, well, thanks, Scott. You did a great job, as always.
It's a learning. So, I hope you guys have learnt something from here as well. If you've got any questions, let us know. Like, subscribe. We will try and film as much as we can moving forward. And, grabbing the camera in a crisis is not the instant reaction, but we understand that it's always got this feeling afterwards, I should have filmed that. So we're getting into that.
So we filmed a little bit more than, and we had someone else on board to do some filming for me. But obviously it wasn't the first thing that we wanted to do. But thanks very much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.
Bye.